If you like what you're seeing and hearing, please consider subscribing to the podcast. You can go to either Apple iTunes, the Google Play Store, Spotify, or Amazon Music in the podcast section. It'll hit Monday morning or Sunday afternoon, depending on when it posts. And the video will hit on YouTube and Spotify Monday. Spotify will hit Monday evening, and YouTube it'll hit Monday morning, 7 a.m., just like it does for the audio services. So please go to those places and consider subscribing or listening to the show. You can also write to me at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com if you want to write me a letter. Let me know what you think of the show, things like that. Or you can also find me on Twitter at JustLittleJoe. So go to those places and please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks. And with that, we'll get on to the episode. Hello, my name is Joseph Carlson, and this is episode 242 of Gaming with Grief, and this is my game of the year for 2023. So I'm going to be very unprofessional. I mentioned it many times, but I'm going to look at some notes I have here, the games that I played in 2023, and I'm just going to go over my thought process, and at the end, I'm going to talk about which game actually won Game of the Year. So let's do it. Let's go over this. So this is pretty much, I don't have like episode. I probably should have, if I was very professional at this, I would have written down like what episode this was, but I didn't do that. But you can go check. You can type this in with the Gaming with Grief content page with the episode pages, and it'll just come up. So early in the year, I played Brother of Tale 2. I'll just go over the list first, and then we'll go over point by point, which one I thought made it or whatever. So A Brother's A Tale of Two Sons, A Space for the Unbound, How to Say Goodbye, God of War Ragnarok, It Comes in Waves, Concrete Genie, Control, I Am Dead, Tacoma, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake, and Call of the Sea. I sat down for a couple of minutes. I went over these. I did clear some away. And the ones that I'll just go over, this my whole thing. I even went over this with my wife, so I'm doing this again. We're doing it live, kind of. No, I went over this with my wife. We ran over things. She doesn't care about spoilers, so I can just pitch this stuff to her. It's pretty great. But, so here's what it was. Here's what happened. The first ones that were out, just out, was How to Say Goodbye. Because like I told my wife, it was more of an abstract idea. It didn't really, not that it didn't have any lessons of grief, but I felt like it was more of a puzzle game using the trappings of grief to tell a puzzle. The character is in the afterlife, kind of moving tiles around to get everything in line so it can move on. In the end, well, you know what? Check out that episode. Go to Gaming with Grief, the channel, and just type in How to Say Goodbye. I have like an early impressions video, I believe, and a spoiler cast. But that was out. It Comes in Waves. I played this on Steam, and it was good. It was about a 90-minute game, I remember. It was short. The episode is short, obviously, because the game was so short. And it was kind of abstract. You were walking through a desert trying to find oxygen to stay alive, and then finding like these medical tubes of something. And anyway, I don't want to spoil the game here, but basically there's no dialogue. Again, it's kind of abstract, but I think it was good. It was the idea of, without spoiling the ending, it was the idea of just paying tribute to someone, I guess is what it would be, without really getting into the end. But that's kind of out because it was a little bit more abstract. Shout out to the guy who did the work. I think it was only one developer, so it's a lot of work. What else? Concrete Genie, played that. That's out. To me, I wanted it to be, not wanted it. I thought it was going to see a lot of these I go into, and I think one thing, and it turns into something else. That's on me. But Concrete Genie was out just because it was more about bullying and like the town and how the person felt. And there is a grief in that. But it did have a happy ending, which is good. He kind of overcame everything, but it wasn't really, I don't know if it had any big message at the end or punch. Maybe just don't bully people, which, isn't bad. I just don't think was revelatory or had anything kind of new, because that's kind of like the purview I look at to review things, is like, what new piece of information about grief or idea or articulation is this doing? tell people not to bully and then them not bullying and them being friends. Great game. Love the painting. Love the sketchbook idea of making what you want when you want. I love the imps, but not really good for grief, Control. This was one where I had an inkling of when I played it, but the whole oppressive feeling of the oldest house was great. Personally, I'm playing Alan Wake 2 right now sporadically. Love it. One of Remedy's other games may make it on this list. I think I mentioned already, Alan Wake. Control, for me, there was a little bit of grief. This idea that this brother and sister had been separated. One brother, the brother had been kind of experimented on and used for his power. And then, him kind of being scarred from that. And you trying to do the right thing, but being the director of the oldest house, there's like a suicide in the beginning, which, good or bad, anyway, I don't think it really came together to say anything new or unique. I mean, they're trying to tell their same story, and so I don't think it is fair for me to say they didn't do their job when it really wasn't their job. Their job was to tell a creepy story about an old house and use this kind of stuff. So Control is a great game. Just didn't really make it into the part of grief or anything like that for me. So that's out. What else? Tacoma, that's out. Unfortunately, I like Tacoma. Obviously, I played it because it was from the Fulbright company. They're in the Northwest. I'm in the Northwest. It seemed like some of the developers were from Tacoma. I didn't look it up, but there's a lot of like inside nods to Tacoma. I'm in Tacoma right now. And so, to see like signs for the Tacoma Dome and stuff. Now, there was a story of grief there that I thought was good, but it was more like corporate malfeasance and, corporations breaking the law and hurting people to get what they wanted. The ending was very good, but and again, it didn't really say anything revelatory, or it didn't articulate a new feeling or idea or getting to the core. I think what it did is just said, this is messed up. And playing the game, I thought, yeah, this is all messed up. So that's out. What else? Alan Wake is out. Loved Alan Wake. I love Remedy now. They're one of my favorite developers. They're on the short list for favorite developers because they do so many interesting things. But Alan Wake is just out because it didn't really have anything to do with grief. I don't know if I was reaching towards the end of the year and thought it would do that, but I think part of it was that what I thought was going to happen in the game did not happen, and that it just turned into Alan Wake doing spooky things with these weird shadow creatures. It seems like in Alan Wake 2, I've only played the beginning so far, but there's a little bit more creepy stuff going on, a little bit more. There's a murder, so obviously there's grief there. But there wasn't, it was more of like a break from reality, and I talked about that in my spoiler cast of that, so you can check that out. Again, you can go to the channel and just type in Gaming with Grief, Alan Wake, spoiler cast, or whatever, and that'll come up. So that's out. Call of the Sea is out. That's the newest game I played. I liked it. I like the idea of basically having a choice when you're about to pass away. The main character had an illness and she had the choice to either go. I was talking about it with my wife. I think it was more of assisted suicide. That idea of, I will either want to go out on my terms, or I will seek treatment. And, in the end, she had the choice to embrace her eldritch lineage, kind of, I guess, and become one of these eldritch creatures that didn't feel pain and I don't think died, or find her husband who and spend the little bit of time that she had left with him. So that was that. But really it was good. I just dropped my notes. Was good, but didn't get to the point of that next level, I think. They ripped. So I'll just go over the ones that made it, my short list. Now, these are the ones that I think just made it. I got Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. That made it. That's kind of on the short list for making it. Even though that game glitched out, I remember the end was very powerful. This thing of trying to help your father and then you kind of being alone and having to do it yourself. Stuff like that. I like that really well. Even though it didn't really... Death sucks. That's kind of like the end result. It's yeah, it sure does. A Space for the Unbound. Yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, I think, dealing with mental illness and splitting your personality in two parts, there's so much trauma in that game, and the fact that the mechanics of having someone complete a puzzle because you don't want them to leave your brain basically is pretty amazing. And I've been thinking about it a little bit lately. Don't worry, I don't have two personalities. I'm not splitting people in my brain. God of War Ragnarok, I think there was some good character moments, and obviously the thing of the whole theme of God of War Ragnarok of be better is pretty great. You know, it's something we should all strive for. I don't know if with the grief and everything, there's still like all this unspoken stuff with that. You know, Kratos isn't really the most talkative person, so he's not articulating something. I think Atreus did a little bit. You know, Sindri, Brock, all that kind of stuff. They're kind of going through it a little bit. But yeah, I don't know if it really reached the level of like, this is revelatory. I think it was very well told. It's a very well told story, you know. What else? I Am Dead. Yeah, talking about this, the idea of being at peace, knowing that you're going to die, was kind of neat, you know, I guess. And it was that game, I don't know, I think I need to look up Melancholy again, but it did have like this calming effect when I was playing it, you know. And it was very meditative, and I like that, and I like that they can show death kind of in that way. And I was like, wow, they're really doing it. And plus, I really like the art style, even though it seems like low poly count. There's something about it that immediately you see it, and it's unique. So, thank you to everybody who worked on that game. I have all the info in the episode, so if you type in "I Am Dead." I'll have all the info for who did the game and who made it and stuff. Marvel Spider-Man 2, that's on the list. That one, I think, again, like God of War Ragnarok, was very well told. And like I said in my spoiler cast, everybody there is pretty much dealing with death. You know, Peter had his parents die. Spoilers for God of War 2018. Then Aunt May died. Miles had his father die. Harry is dealing with a terminal disease that is killing him. Craven has terminal cancer. You know, slight spoilers for the game. You find that out later. So everybody's kind of dealing with death or grief like in their own way. And I think they all end up in a good place, which is something you don't see in a lot of games. And I think it is really well told. I don't know if it's one of those things where it was revelatory. I think one thing that I'm sure I've said it on the podcast, you know, I've done, what is this, episode 242. I think one thing that I've noticed is there is, you know, that thing that I always quote from Nora McInerney, who did the TED Talk. She's also got the podcast, Terrible, Thanks for Asking. The idea that you don't move on from grief, you move on with grief. That's very true, you know, and I think Marvel Spider-Man 2 is a great example of that. People kind of move on in their lives from feeling grief and being maybe in the worst part of the waves of grief, but they're still dealing with it in a good way, which I think is good. So it's really well told, but I don't think that is, you know, the number one game. I think, you know, the more and more I think about it, I don't have a drum roll sound or anything. So I'll just say for me this year, really reflecting on it, my game of the year is A Space for the Unbound. So, you know, hey, congratulations. And I have some info here if I can find it. Okay, here we go. So I want to do this because you guys get your flowers. It came out right at the beginning of the year. So I actually have a Game of the Year winner that is, you know, current. Wow, it came out January 19th. So right at the beginning of the year. That I can see here. Basically, let's see if I can find. It was developed by Mojokin. It was published by Toge Studios. It's single player. It is on. I checked the Microsoft Store, the Nintendo eShop, the PlayStation Store, and Steam. It's $20, $19.99 American dollars. If you're watching this somewhere out of the country, the equivalent of $19.99. I'm not going to do them. I don't know the math, but there is also a demo in those stores. So if you're not sure, download the demo and try it. But yes, Space for the Unbound is the game of the year. I think if I was to talk about Space for the Unbound, it's one of those things where I feel that with any great game, that I am missing something. And I think I'm pretty, I don't know, I think I got a good head on my shoulders, as my grandparents used to say. I think that I would that game makes me want to look stuff up and read endings and like interpret things different way and read think pieces, which I did after the game came out. And I was kind of steeped in it. And I was thinking about this, before I recorded this episode today. And that's it. It's one of those games. I think, like I said, any good art, it requires you not only to think about it, but I don't know if requires the right word, but you continue to think about it. It stays with you. And I think Space for the Unbound did. So thank you, Mojikin, and everybody who worked on it. It doesn't mean anything because I don't have a lot of subscribers, but you guys win Game of the Year. If it means anything, if I can just give you a digital handshake, as it were, you get Game of the Year from Gaming with Grief. It was a good year. I noticed, I will say, that I played less games this year than I normally have, but I played bigger games, longer games. Marvel Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, Control. These are all like longer games. I'm planning to do that next year, so I want to go for quality, not quantity. I did have some episodes where I just talked to some friends, but some of it was just chatting with people that I know. My friend Martin and I talked about the Banshees of Inisherin. That has a lot to do with grief. So, I don't want to make this channel just about games, although I know that's like the main thrust of the channel. I want there to be a lot of stuff for people to enjoy. So, once again, Space for the Unbound, congratulations to the 12 or 13 people that are watching, whoever's watching this. Go check out Space for the Unbound. Check out the demo. Like I said, it's on all the storefronts. It's on Switch. I played it on Switch. It ran great. I didn't have any problems. I think the load screens were a little bit longer, but it's not much. Shout out to the art team and everybody who worked on that game. You guys did an amazing job. And thank you for showing me a place. The game takes place in... it's set in a small Indonesian town in the 90s, which is not something, being from the Northwest of America, I know about. So thank you for showing me that. That was great. Again, I think that's it. I don't do very long episodes, and I think, you win. If you win, you win. What is there to go on about? If I had other people in this pod, we could talk about A Space for the Unbound. But there's no one. There's no one, man. And people, there's no one. It's just me. So congratulations to Space for the Unbound again. I know I've said that a lot, but, it's a great game. So I think that's it this week. And I will see you guys again next week.